business opportunity out of this.
I don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wait, I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, wait. So you have the cops have to smell pot and hear noises simultaneously?
I don't know.
And
that part wasn't
is
clear.
there a description of what that noise has to sound like?
The problem is hiding
Sound
something.
like destroying evidence. But
Yeah,
can't that just
but
be
what does
like
that- what does
moving
that
around,
sound like?
going to answer the door, for example?
Is it a flush toilet, a paper shredder running?
It could sound just like enthusiastic cleaning. Like if you're turning things over or whatnot, and I do a lot of that.
But like also, like if you're busy destroying the evidence, who lights up a J in the middle of it? You know, it seems a little counterproductive.
Well,
It could be a little
sort of linger?
intense.
Yeah, well, it's true too. Yeah.
Well, one of the
I
justices,
wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Stoners.
They said that he had choices, that he could have not answered the door, or he could have answered and said that he was going to wait for them to get a warrant. But what's troubling to me is that he could have not answered the door as a choice. Well, isn't that suspicious then?
Yeah.
That he didn't answer? Are they then allowed to kick the door in?
Yeah.
I think it's very scary.
No, I think it is too. And, you know, Bill, the moral to this story, I think, is you should always live next door to people who smoke dope.
Absolutely.
Because they'll be coming for you and your huge stash of crack, but they'll smell the dope.
God bless my concierge neighbor, Rich. And there's no part of that was a joke. That's why I didn't use his last name. You know, Greg, as you know, I'm not really passionate about a lot. But this does kind of bother me. You know, you look at the amount of time wasted and the amount of rest for crap like this. I maintain that the most costly war we've lost is not Vietnam, but indeed the war on drugs.
Really, my
Close
friend.
second, war on Christmas.
Yes, terrible, terrible, terrible. I know, but you know the thing is, this is not an emergency situation. That's what gets me.
Right.
This is not the smelling pot. That's not life or death. That's maybe you know, a disappearance of a bag of Doritos.
Yes,
I went to that obvious joke. But there's nothing is in danger but food.
Yeah, I mean, they could have just knocked on the door and said, Domino's.
Yes.
Would have opened it.
Exactly.
Now you're giving them ideas. You're part of the problem.
Well, the fact that the case ended up in the Supreme Court because it was a mistake, the cops did go into the wrong place.
Right.
So,
Well, and it's troubling, too, that it was 8-1. It's not like it was a close decision. They thought this was a slam dunk.
Scary. The world is
don't like it.
changing. All right. So last night I told you how much I enjoy crying in the shower. But I also love charity. So let's get to my latest piece of art. I call this Surfing Corn. The high bid so far comes from Stuart Fox, who offered $420 for this piece of art. Not bad, but I'm sure there's someone out there who can bid much, much higher. So the rest of you have till next Friday to make a bid. Email your offer to redeye@foxnews.com to be considered. And as you know, all the money this week goes to TAPS, a nonprofit group that provides grief counseling and support programs to families of fallen soldiers. You can go to taps.org to learn more. But let's not forget, the real message here, it's not about charity. It's about me. Hey, are you the guy who does all that charity work? Yeah, that's true. Great. What are you doing in my son's treehouse? Honest mistake, it looked a lot like mine. Okay, but take your pants with you. Must have blown away in the wind, good sir. Coming up, what's it like to be totally awesome all the time? I interview myself next. But first, why are we showing video of porn sites? That way you won't go to bed right now. See, it worked. Yeah, another global warming Gregolog. I apologize in advance. Slow week. So David Evans is a scientist who worked for the Australian Greenhouse Office as one of the country's leading climate change experts. But once a global warming alarmist, he's now a skeptic. He now believes that, quote, the debate about global warming is full of micro-thin half-truths and misunderstandings. And he blames it all on greed, vanity, and careerism. Because he says, quote, the gravy train was too big with too many jobs, industries, trading profits, political careers, and the possibility of world government and total control riding on the outcome. So rather than admit exaggeration, the alarmist chose the path to hysteria. And this reveals a truth I've tried to explain to my global warming pals, that the only experts you can trust are the ones who keep their traps shut. As a health journalist, I learned that the good doctors were always the quiet ones. And those guys always viewed the blabbermouths as opportunists who sacrifice science in favor of ego and influence. And this is why two decent people can read the same article and reach two different conclusions. For a person unfamiliar with the professional and personal motives behind the science, you can buy into the dire predictions. But for a health hack like me, I always knew you could extrapolate any possibility into a craze or a panic. for personal gain. I saw it 1,000 times with vitamins and fitness gadgets and health scares. Man-made global warming was no different. The good news, eventually hysteria dies down. The question is, how much damage does it leave behind? Did overwrought concern actually obliterate legitimate worry? My suggestion, let's restart the debate and find out. And if you disagree with me, then you, sir, are worse than Hitler. Joe, wasn't the problem that they said the science was settled before it was, and it wouldn't be such a bad idea for everybody to go back and look at the facts? Yeah. So that, I mean, because I do think that, we have to worry about the climate, but we got to worry about it from a common sense point of view.
Well, I think it's a good example of people like to think that they have a profound impact on even the planet Earth with things they do. I remember shopping at Whole Foods once, and this guy, they asked if he wanted a bag, and he held up his bag, and he's like, "No, I brought my own." I was like, "Oh, thank you." So I'm sure there's a polar bear somewhere who's ready to roll. It's like, look, just do your part, but don't act like anything you can do has this huge impact, because it really doesn't. And you're right about the quiet doctors are usually the best, especially the ones at the clinic who know how to keep their mouths shut.
Yeah, I always worried about that, Crystal. The people that are shouting the loudest in any way, in any ideology, always scare me. Don't they scare you a little bit?
They do scare me a little bit, yes. But, I mean, you have like 90% of scientists that agree that global warming is an issue. And the other thing that I would say with this is, no individually, like bringing the extra bag and whatever, how much of a difference is that going to make? But it is an important problem, especially in the face of these massive extreme weather events we've been having more and more frequently.
I don't know. I mean, I have to disagree on the consensus. I do think that you could talk about changes in climate, but the effects of man-made global warming is really where the problem is.
But isn't it more depressing to think that there's nothing you can do about it?
I think there's something you can do, but I prefer to watch TV. And watch Reddit. No, I think there's stuff you could do, but I think it really, honestly, you have so little impact on the Earth. I think in a way it's almost arrogant to think that you can change the world.
Well, it's the back patting that bothers me.
Yeah.
Is that people think that they make statements on these things. They're like, wow, I have personally saved the Earth. It's like, no, we should all do our part, but don't overstate the impact that you have as one person.
Mm-hmm. Laura, you're the business mind here. Wasn't this all about really making a lot of money?
Trade and making money in business contracts and this and that.
Lori's in on it.
No, I'm not. I hear you, but I think you make a great point. I think we suffer from information overload. I think we should look at climate science, and I think you can again become overwhelmed with all the information out there. And I think it's really tough to separate the business interest versus the real science of it. So we have a long way to go.
Yeah. What happened to the whole carbon offset industry, which kind of suddenly disappeared when people realized it didn't exist? It was indulgences, something phony.
Right, there's that, and there's the whole ethanol thing, and now we've got huge prices for crops because of, the balance between what they're planning for food and what they're planning for energy. So there's so many different issues right now that are circulating that need to be sorted out.
Bill, isn't it a fact that boring stuff gets you in the end? Nobody wants to talk about global warming or read this stuff. It's people like me that have to slog through it, and people like you that criticize me for it.
Well, I am a skeptic, Greg. And
You're a skeptic of skeptics.
I am. And I was skeptical that we're discussing this entire thing based on one source. So I decided to look into Mr. David Evans.
And awesome dude.
What I found is that he did work for the Australian Greenhouse Office as a computer programmer. He has never written a paper on carbon accounts, and he's actually quoted in 1987 as saying, "I know a lot about modeling in computers, not climate models." He had also worked climate models. He also worked for a global warming skeptic organization in 1998, and it has close ties to the mining industry. Now, there is a conflict of interest.
He's my kind of guy, though, because
yes.
The thing is, all of this stuff is based on hypothetical climate models. None of this stuff is real, and they've always been wrong. And there's a lot of scientists that you don't hear from. He's one of them that you hear from now.
He's not a scientist.
No, he is a scientist.
No, he said he was a rocket scientist and has been since disproven. You can learn more about Richard Evans on a new show I'm hosting on Saturday called Questionable Sources.
I disagree. All right, do you have a comment on the show? Email us. It's redeye@foxnews.com. And to leave a voicemail on my direct line, 212-462-5050. Still to come, the halftime report from TV's Andy Levy. He's questionable.
Boo.
Hate him.
Tonight's halftime report is sponsored by Graduates, those people who have received an academic degree or diploma from a place of education after an extended period of study. Thanks, Graduates.
Welcome back. Let's find out if we've gotten anything wrong so far. For that, we go to TV's Andy Levy. So, what's on your mind, Andy?
You know what? I really don't feel like talking about it.
Uh-oh. What's wrong?
No, seriously, just Just let it go.
Come on, Andy. You can talk to me.
Look, I said I don't want to talk about it, okay?
Okay, fine. Just start the halftime report.
Thank you. It's just...
Oh, God.
You know, never mind.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just worried about Ned Stark, Greg.
Who?
Ned Stark, Greg.
Who the hell is Ned Stark?
He's the Lord of Winterfell and the King's Hand, Greg, and I think he's in trouble.
This is more of that Games of Thrones crap, isn't it, Andy?
See, this is why I don't want to talk about it. I knew you wouldn't understand.
It's not real, Andy. Halftime is real.
You're not real.
Ooh. Unnecessary.
You're not.
Touché.
Thank you. It's called a burn in the business. Yeah.
Don't think I won't forget.
Mm-hmm. I don't think you won't forget.
Did I just say something that made no sense?
Yeah, pretty much.
Tonight is, I think that might be the 5th time.
Ever? Or
No,
tonight?
just tonight.
Okay. Schwarzenegger, I would like to congratulate everyone on keeping this segment pun-free.
Yes.
It's very well done, very well done. Joe, you said that Arnold's governorship kind of tapered off in coolness as it went on. And that's so true. I was living out there during the recall election of Gray Davis where Arnold got voted in. And he was supposed to be the big savior of the state. And remember, we were going to change the Constitution so he could be president?
Sure, and you know, you could have also voted for Gary Coleman in that recall.
I was actually trying to figure out last night, I was talking with a friend, I couldn't remember if I voted for Arnold or if I voted for Gary Coleman, actually.
Wasn't it Ariana Huffington?
Yeah, I know I didn't vote for her.
And Mary Carey?
I know I didn't vote for her as well.
And Gallagher, I think Gallagher.
No.
No, his brother.
Really?
Gallagher's
Oh, Gallagher, too.
Maybe
One of
even
the
worse.
Gallaghers. It's a rogues gallery.
Oh, so y'all talked about the women who allegedly showed up at Arnold Santa Monica's offices with manila envelopes. Lori, you said you think they had cash, but the report said the women would arrive with the envelopes, which is odd.
Oh, I suppose technicalities.
Yeah.
Will they arrive with cash or leave? Because I thought they left with the envelopes.
It said that they would show up with the envelopes. My theory...
Maybe they were empty upon arrival, and then they...
That's my theory, that Arnold is just so cheap that he would make them bring their own envelopes.
No, you know, Andy, you know what it is? It goes back to the Santa Monica office. Those were their headshots. Like, oh, they're coming to audition for my next film.
Oh, that's not bad.
Oh, actually, that makes sense.
Who's that? Whose voice was that?
I have no I'm not made for impersonations.
You're made for love.
Yes.
Yes. By the way, Arnold and Maria's daughter tweeted on Tuesday, quote, "This is definitely not easy, but I appreciate your love and support as I begin to heal and move forward in my life. I will always love my family."
See, I would love to see a refreshing tweet where it says, "I hate you, Daddy."
I know. But you're
Honesty.
never going to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bill does that.
Rihanna is following Chris Brown on Twitter. Nothing makes sense.
Well, she's doing that to make so she knows where he is.
Yeah, I guess that's
So she
possible.
doesn't
Yeah.
beat her up.
Yeah. French not happy about Dominique Strauss-Kahn doing the perp walk. Crystal, you said we shouldn't feel any sympathy for DSK, that he's a sleaze, and I totally agree with you. But I also kind of agree with the French about the whole perp walk thing. We keep we keep the alleged victim's identity secret, which is totally understandable. But we parade the alleged perpetrator across all the newspapers and TV screens when he hasn't been convicted of anything.
Well, he should have just embraced it like Lindsay Lohan and made it into a fashion show. Like a catwalk.
Yes.
You know what's weird about, and I don't know if it's just from being a guy, but why is it no matter what the guy does, you identify with the guy doing the perp walk? You don't identify with anybody else. You go, oh, that's gotta suck. And I'm a law-abiding citizen, as far as most people know.
Right.
I always look at the guy and go, that's gotta suck.
It's the sad truth of men just being awful people.
Yeah.
Like, there's a little bit of awful in all.
I have no, I have no sympathy for this guy being at Rikers. I know he's got, it sounds to me like he's had a pattern of abuse. He's a jerk.
Absolutely.
But it's like still when you see him, even like Madoff, seeing Madoff, I always felt like, he's some old guy. That's what happened. Your instincts are, he's some old guy. Just put him away. Put him through a tunnel somewhere.
So it's a law in France that you can't show hands in fisticuffs.
I don't think you can photograph somebody who's in handcuffs awaiting trial, right?
But it's so interesting. Your hands can do so many other things, and it's acceptable in Europe, right?
Yeah, that is very true.
It's a little hypocritical.
Yeah, it is hypocritical.
What about the pimp walk?
I don't know.
Do the pimp walk
Can you
in France?
The
demonstrate
pimp walk is not only legal but encouraged.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.